More FPGAs in the crypto mining scene? What is going on with this space? This and more after the jump. Hello, lovely audience. Good to see you. Welcome back. My name is Seth Estrada, and if you're watching this video, you're probably on my YouTube channel, Seth Estrada. Though, in light of recent events, I wouldn't blame you if you were watching this on Libri or on bittubers.com. So, special thanks, before we get started, to MineYour.biz for sponsoring this episode. FPGAs. What are they all about? Why do we have them? Why am I even talking about them today? Wasn't Seth really into GPU technology? Actually, yes, I am. And prepare yourself to see a lot more content regarding GPUs in the very near future. However, the reality of crypto mining in 2019 moving into 2020 is that FPGAs are king. Period. FPGAs are king. Now, you've possibly heard me say I'm fairly anti-ASIC. I don't know that I'm anti-ASIC as much as I personally believe that it's more realistic for FPGAs to have the kind of flexibility necessary to jump through the hoops that coin developers throw at them when algorithm changes come up. Case in point, Monero, hard forking to change their mining algorithm every 6 months. What can change that frequently? Well, surely not ASICs because they are fixed function. They only do one thing. However, FPGAs make that kind of a change very easily. I shouldn't say very easily. A bitstream needs to be developed, then a mining program needs to be developed that accommodates that bitstream. It's a little more complicated. However, it's not the same as ASICs where an algorithm change can completely make them obsolete. It's still not quite as flexible as GPUs. However, FPGAs can provide a lot more performance than GPUs and definitely way more performance than CPUs, depending on the application and depending on who's writing the bitstream. We're seeing that right now in coins like Bitcash or in coins like Ravencoin or in a handful of other coins as well. This is the current state of crypto mining today. Now, will this be the case in 2021? I don't know. Nobody's crystal ball can say for sure. However, it's a very strong likelihood that these are a very good bet and a very good buy for people who are looking at capitalizing some kind of a crypto mining venture. That said, please remember, this show does not offer advice, and any opinions you hear expressed by me are not legal, financial, business, or other advice. Do your own research. Do not get wrecked. Shout out to Mitchell Moose on CryptoBriefing.com. The initial story broke Christmas Eve of all times. We were all worried about YouTube throwing us off the platform, shaking in our boots. Well, frankly, I wasn't shaking all that much. I'm already on BitTubers, and I've been backing up to Libri for some time, so I'm not too worried about that. However, there was a big scare. Little did we know that there was breaking news in the cryptocurrency mining front. That's right. Cryptocurrency and blockchain are always under attack. We've got to stay vigilant here. But on CryptoBriefing.com, Mitchell talks about how Xilinx, the chipset manufacturer that provides the chips to companies like SQRL, has announced that it is going to debut its own cryptocurrency mining product. This is quite a blow to the cryptocurrency mining community, especially those who are familiar with the SQRL team and its founder, David Stanfill. Very stand-up person in most of our experience. In my personal experience, I can say I view the guy as fairly stand-up and doing right by the community. When his supply chain showed serious slowdowns, he was extremely transparent with buyers about what the expected wait times would be, issued a ton of refunds, and was extremely patient with his support team in answering questions and extremely generous in their time answering questions day and night. Even though their team was largely based in the United States, they definitely bent over backwards. Anybody who's close enough to the situation to have seen and observed their behavior from the distance that we've been able to observe it should know SQRL has behaved admirably, all things considered. So, what I want to turn your attention to is an article by Greg, aka Pharmacist, over at container.life. Very well written, bit of an op-ed piece, but this is, I'll just say it's a lot more fiery, it's a lot more spicy, it shows a little bit more about it. But the upshot is that Xilinx has apparently taken some, not the intellectual property, but has apparently taken the opportunity now to take note of how well the market is done based on SQRL's marketing and support of this first and second wave of FPGA products. And again, to be clear, this is not your Bitcoin FPGA. This is not the FPGA of several years ago. These FPGAs are so high performance that they outperform any desktop gaming GPU and most workstation class and server class GPUs. I'll show you what that means in a minute. I've got all the documentation from Xilinx pulled up, so let's go over this with a fine-tooth comb. This is worth really taking a closer look at, just so you can see what the implications are here, what's at stake. Not only for Xilinx or for SQRL or for AMD or for NVIDIA for that matter, or for Intel, but for all of us involved in cryptocurrency, knowing essentially kind of what's coming around the corner right now with FPGAs. There was a mutual NDA signed between SQRL and Xilinx, so I'm sure that there is some kind of an IP battle that's about to ensue, but this is the internal leak of the card that's being shown by Xilinx. It says it's a low-profile, non-PCIe compliant accelerator. This is not going to be like anything you've seen before. Modified U50 design, we'll talk about what that means. Designed to operate at 150 watts, and we'll talk about what that means, how that's different from what the current iteration of that product is. And it's single slot, but it also says it can work on Gen 3, Gen 2, or Gen 4. Gen 4 PCIe. That's a big deal. It's a lot of speed. 8 lanes of PCIe Gen 4. With 8 gigs of HBM2 memory. Also a pretty big deal in terms of hardware these days. No thermal-mechanical solution must be developed by customer. That is to say, right now, it doesn't cover the heatsink. You got to figure that out. And so this is probably geared towards end users that have those kinds of resources at scale to be able to cool off a lot of these cards. There's no network interfaces or I/O brackets, no need for QSFP, those little ports that would normally be on the front of this card to help it network with other cards, because it's not going to be used in that way. And then micro USB JTAG. Product sold as SCD to specific crypto accounts, not a standard product, not production qualified, limited to 3-month warranty. How does that sound familiar? Well, it sounds familiar because mining edition GPUs are very similar. They have only a 3-month warranty, and same with ASICs. When they're used for mining, there's the very real risk of overheating, very real risk of breaking these things fast when you mine with them like that. Price is to be determined, finalized January 2020. Business opportunities, contact Hamid Saleh and Rami Halabi. And then product schedule, Shyam Chander. So, let's see. And apparently, the current rumor is that these will be debuting at around the $1,000 price point. However, that's only if you are a qualified account. There you go. Specific crypto accounts. This is not going to be sold in limited production runs. If you want only, say, 10 or 20 of these, if you want to just get a box of 100 or a crate of 100 with a few friends to invest in a brand new mining operation, you're probably out of luck. This is probably going to go to much larger accounts. It's the orders will begin in December, and then fulfillment will, I guess, begin in 2020, January. I don't know that I can call it IP theft, but I do know that there's a bit of turmoil that I'm reading from a bunch of people within the community. So, again, Greg goes to great lengths to speak his mind here, and I really appreciate that. He's a very, very staunch supporter of the SQRL team, and goes so far as to show Rami Halabi's LinkedIn profile here, because he's the leader of the North American Sales and Business Development at Xilinx for data centers. And that would include, of course, micro data centers for mining operations, I guess. He doesn't mince words here, Greg, about what he thinks of this guy and what he's doing. That said, here's some screenshots of David Stanfill, aka GPU Hoarder, and some things that he mentioned without saying anything. Just showed us some screenshots that gave us an idea of maybe some thoughts we could think through to create a narrative in our own minds, or try to figure out, our own thoughts regarding what we've just read about this leak. Now, is Greg white knighting? I don't think so. I think most of us who've been able to observe the SQRL team in their time of greatest need can say safely that the SQRL team has conducted themselves with very high standards. When the Acorn product was delayed, they did their best to support people. When they had delays in hosting for BCUs and other FPGA products, the SQRL team, they worked wonders. Just had a voice conversation with one of the community members of the Mind Your Biz community, talking about how the support staff at SQRL, limbs and meat legs, if you know the couple there, that they absolutely worked wonders and were a tremendous customer service team, a tremendous credit to the SQRL team. And David himself has been extremely generous with his time in answering questions and in helping the community to stay on track and to, wherever possible, stay ahead of profitability with these parts. Let's talk about a couple of things that have come to light. Right here, Xilinx has this product available, And it's going to look a little bit familiar right here. It says plug-and-play solution for Xilinx Alveo cards, cloud solution, Amazon Web Services, etc. Blockchain-based applications, digital cryptocurrency, transaction verification. Very interesting. Why would it be a blockchain hardware accelerator? Well, the Alveo cards. After doing a little bit of digging, I'm not super familiar with the Xilinx catalog, but I made myself familiar by reading through it. And again, that's why I'm doing the primarily screencast here, not showing you my face as much. I'm also, of course, using my laptop, so this is a little bit easier. Post-Christmas. I don't want you to see me looking haggard and feeling gross. Finance.yahoo.com shows that an insider sold a lot of shares within Xilinx, but this only debuted this last week as well, within the last 48 hours. Biggest insider sale for almost $1 million worth of shares. Pretty intense stuff, but a lot of movement, a lot of people selling, not a lot of insiders buying. Clearly, there could be some kind of desperation being felt over at Xilinx. I don't want to comment on that. I don't know anything about it, but this is over at the Simply Wall Street blog of finance.yahoo.com, so they can stand behind what they're reporting there. And apparently, this is public record, so the numbers speak for themselves. When you see many tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars being shuffled out of a company, I don't know. I would call that smoke, but perhaps what we're seeing with this FPGA announcement is the fire. I don't know. Maybe they're worried about this. This is the Xilinx.com website. This is the home page right here. You can see there are plenty of products on the front page, but wait a second. What's this? Breathe new life into your data center. This is the Alveo line of cards right here, clearly passively cooled. You see some QSFP ports right there on the front for higher interconnect between different parts inside of a server. See 4 RAM slots right there, so for expandability. So not an HBM2 part there, probably a DDR4 part, and this may be an older photo of an older product. I'm not sure. But this is the Alveo line. If you click through, right here, top of the page, Xilinx Alveo. Breathe new life into your data center. Well, or breathe new life into your data center business. Am I right? Okay. So, acceleration for dynamic workloads. Accelerated cards that fit your performance needs. Wait a second. Top of the list, the Alveo U50. When I saw the U50 designation over here on this internal part number, go back to Pharmacist's press release here. Is modified U50 design to operate at 150 watts. Well, let's take a look at this. The U50. This is likely what they're talking about. I don't see any RAM slots on this, and clearly it's designed for PCIe Gen 4 and HBM2. This may well be what we were looking at before. All the rest appear to be DDR4 parts and expandability. So opening up, oh, you know what? That's not what I was going to do. Here we go. Here's the PDF. The PDF for the Alveo U50 part. Clearly, it's a single width card. There's a QSFP port right there on the front. And if we were to take this exact same design right here and imagine that the main silicon is right there, X marks the spot right there on that part. If that's where the silicon is, and let's pop open Pharmacist, there we go. That just about matches, doesn't it? A little farther back. There we go. A little farther back on those pins on the PCIe slot right there. But comes with 100 gig E networking when you have the QSFP ports, and is designed for PCI Express 4.0. With that 8 gigs of HBM2 memory, if you're not familiar with GPU mining, or if you're not familiar with now the takeover, the slow, rather fast takeover of FPGA mining from GPUs, this high bandwidth memory, second revision that is going into these parts, allows for bitstream developers and allows for anybody who's creating mining software and mining algorithms designed for FPGAs to overcome the memory hardness of algorithms like ETHASH, rather Dagger Hashimoto, or the memory hardness and complexity of algorithms like what Ravencoin uses, X16R, or Pigeoncoin, X16S, or any variants of these multi-algorithm cycles like X11 used to be. When ASICs hit the market, there was an FPGA component for sequencing X11. However, there was no randomization. Now with these newer, more difficult algorithms, FPGAs are making short work of it, and apparently when ASICs hit the market to mine Ravencoin, these FPGAs have hit the market to hit that Ravencoin algorithm even harder. So FPGAs are definitely a force to be reckoned with. That HBM2 memory is a large reason why. HBM2 has allowed some of those limitations to be lifted or eased just a little bit for bitstream developers and for mining software programmers to be able to overcome the hardware limitations of FPGAs over things like GPUs. Many GPUs already have this HBM2 memory. The Radeon Vega card, for example, by AMD, and some workstation and server class cards by NVIDIA have HBM2, and now the newer GDDR6. FPGAs that have HBM2 on board, well, guess what? They're going to be programmable to be even faster, over time, even faster than GPUs with the same amount of memory. So this looks to me like it's probably a similar part. But looking at the specifications here, we see that down below, the TDP, 75 watts. And according to Leak, you see that this is designed to run at 150 watts, so double the power. Designed to operate at double the power. I wonder what that means exactly. That could just be that there are enhanced voltage regulator modules that are going to be placed onto these boards, and if the thermal cooling design or the thermal mechanical solution, aka heatsink, is up to the end user to figure out, well, it could be that the end users are going to be simply dunking these things into dual-phase liquid immersion tanks. And, of course, if you're selling to clients that have a budget of millions or tens of millions of dollars, that's really no problem at all. Especially considering that these cards are designed to run in a single slot right next to other cards. They're drop-in replacements for current existing server motherboards. So actually, this could be much easier to deploy than any other kind of FPGA we've ever seen go to market. If they can get this to work correctly, if the voltage and power consumption characteristics of these boards, these developer boards that are already shipping in the Alveo U50 product line, if that's all they have to do is adapt it, well, we could see some serious speed up there. According to their numbers here, the computational storage acceleration and the financial simulation for grid computing and the ultra-low latency networking, they're showing comparisons to other commodity parts like CPUs and GPUs. And they're not pulling any punches here. They're using the Intel Skylake SP, Xeon E5 2697. That is a very, at least for the CPU in this setup here, it's a very performant server part with 12 cores and 24 threads. So, and then a Tesla V100 16 gig card. They're not messing around here. And then also showing their performance versus a Tesla T4. These are some pretty serious, heavy-hitting numbers. And apparently, they scale in a greater than linear fashion depending on how they're paired. You see right here, one of these Alveos apparently is 4 times the performance of a CPU, according to their numbers, and 2 of them is 9 times, with 3 of them being up to 13 times as powerful. So I don't know. Maybe they're fudging these numbers. It'd be great to see what the actual numbers are. However, the bottom line is, the Alveo is clearly a part that is to be reckoned with. Low profile, as you can see right here, that's a full height bracket for PCI Express, but it takes up only a portion of that space. I think because it's only intended to consume 75 watts, so having a heatsink fill up the remainder of the space, or putting a water cooling block on it, or simply dunking it in any kind of dual phase or single phase liquid immersion cooling with the minimum required heat dispersion device or apparatus put over the top, a heatsink or something that'll just get the job done when it's dunked in liquid. I don't know. I can see these scaling out very, very easily, very well. Let's have a comparison now. I'm going to go ahead and back on the main Xilinx product page here. Let's go down to their FPGAs and let's pull up the current king of FPGA mining on the Vertex UltraScale line. Okay, so Vertex UltraScale HBM. And under the product table here, let's pull up the brains of the FK33. That'd be the XCVU33P right here. System logic cells 962. And over here, Alveo 50, looks like we're just below that at 800. I'm not reading this right. Okay. Shoot. Make sure that I am reading this right. DSP slices, let's start there so we can go apples to apples. But DSP slices, we're looking at 2880 on the 33P. And over here, DSP slices, we're looking at almost double that on the U50. But there must be some other places we can find these, right? And yes, this is where you can find Alveo Xilinx accelerated computing parts. AWS, Alibaba Cloud, Baidu, Nimbix. Apparently, they're already deployed at scale. So, an Amazon EC2 F1 instance should allow you to deploy one of these, or several of these, little FPGAs, little U50s, to be able to start working with them today. It is at a cost, though. Not cheap, definitely not free, but a far cry from $1,000 out of your pocket today if you wanted to start messing around with these guys right now. Why does this matter? I think Crypto Briefing and Mitchell, his wording here is extremely important to take into account. FPGAs are going to completely dominate the landscape for any small cap altcoins for the remainder of 2019, of course, and into 2020. Anything that has an extremely small net hash with hashing functions that are easy to manipulate, such as derivatives of Ketchik or largely dependent on Ketchik functions, they're going to be dominated by FPGAs. And the experts in the field have been telling us about this for about a year to a year and a half. The writing has been on the wall. FPGAs will take over these small cap altcoins. And if care isn't taken to innovate in the space and focus specifically on mathematical hardness or mathematical operations in which maybe only CPUs can compete, a la RandomX, or some other novel implementation to make sure, such as perhaps ProgPow, make sure that FPGAs don't have a substantive advantage over GPUs or CPUs, we're going to see this trend continue. Right now, that incentive is in favor of larger organizations that already have these devices in place. The Amazons of the world, the Baidus of the world, the investor groups that have 8- and 9-figure budgets to be able to buy whatever they want on a whim, to be able to, air quotes, try out this crypto thing or try out this blockchain thing. We're reaching a point in which mining may be commoditized beyond point of recognition, where the small to mid-scale miner is very much going to suffer without having some other means to decentralize the hash rate. It pains me to say that. However, I'm committed to bringing small to mid-scale mining info to the community and doing what I can to be a voice of reason and a voice of advocacy for the small to mid-scale miner. You tell me in the comments below, what do you think about this news? What do you think about Xilinx going into the business of FPGA mining, offering parts direct to consumer and bypassing SQRL? Do you think that that's fair? Do you think it's just? Is it just business? You tell me down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. Thank you so much for being a supporter, checking out MineYour.biz, our sponsor. Thank you so much for clicking the subscribe button and pressing the bell icon so you're notified when new videos like this come out. You're the reason I make this media. I love your face! And I will see you in the next one.